Hope we continue to have people join us. We have 21 online right now. We've been averaging closer to 30, so I think that'll be good if we can get that many. I guess we ought to try to find out what we can do to get some more of our members participating in the online process. I suspect there's some who don't have either the computer technology or the computer savvy to join us, but if we can identify some of those folks and get find a way that we can help them join us, that ought to be good. Welcome to the first official Waynesville Rotary Club meeting of my presidency. Appreciate all of those of you who joined us 2 weeks ago when we were inducted, and I appreciate Cecil's write-up of that process, and particularly his cartoons. If you haven't read your spoke today, you don't know what I'm talking about. But Cecil does a good job with our spoke. I don't see our current chaplain online today, nor our chief of the chaplain corps. So can I ask for a volunteer to do our invocation today? George Thompson raised his hand. Thank you, George.
Let's pray. As we gather as Rotarians today, we do so as very thankful people. We're grateful for the beauty of this day, a day in which there is evidence everywhere of a threatening coronavirus, news of those things that are disparaging in so many of our states across our land. And we pray for those who are victims of this terrible virus. But we give you thanks, O gracious God, for your delivery in our lives and in the lives of so many whom we know who are experiencing good health and are staying safe. Protect us by your mercy and give us grace as well as wisdom to do the right things in protecting ourselves and others. We thank you for a new beginning of a new year in Rotary. For Steve and all the wonderful officers that we inducted 2 weeks ago, we give you thanks for their dedication and sacrifice of hours of service, and for their wisdom and guidance for each of us as we attempt to be putting service above self. We are thankful. Now lead us this day as we have a meaningful a time of sharing and a good program. And may we be enlightened by the insights from one another, and may we have laughter as we share stories about ourselves and others. Most of all, may we be filled with gratitude for the gift of life and life abundant, which we know through your grace, offering our prayers this day in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, George. I don't see our chairman of the Sergeant in Arms group online today. Cecil, since you have control of our, where's Cecil? There he is. Since you have control of our flag and four-way test screens, can you lead us as our Sergeant of Arms today, please?
Certainly. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, under God. I'm on the bridge. Somebody help me out here, Steve. I've blanked.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. The next one's at least, I can read this one straight off. I apologize. Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Cecil. Are there any announcements from any of our club members? Cecil highlighted a few announcements in the spoke. You want to review those for us, Cecil?
The next open door, and I've asked Terry to confirm this, but my belief is the next open door was still the fourth Thursday of July, which I think was the 25th, although I'm not looking at my calendar. 23rd. You will receive about 2:01 p.m. today your love notes for the fourth quarter, which was April 1st through June 30th. The good news is that they're pretty limited in scope this quarter. The general fee was $71.50 for most people. That included dues and Paul Harris. A few folks, of course, had their birthday dollars, which go to the Waynesville Rotary Foundation. So they'll see a little bit higher statement amount. We are recording today's session. And gee, now I'm on recorded, not remembering the Pledge of Allegiance. Hooray. But we're going to try to find ways in the coming year for members to be able to go who maybe missed the meeting to go back and watch it. So that's kind of still to come. Steve, before my brain quits again, I better quit.
All righty, thank you. This is the first club assembly under my presidency, and not depending on my memory, I made a few notes. I'm sure I'll be referring to them. First of all, I have a confession. For years, I've in the process of becoming an officer and certainly not president of our Rotary Club. And the largest part of that was because of the reputation of the amount of work that was involved and the amount of the time commitment. But double past President Ron twisted my arm 2 years ago and got me in the process of doing this. And the time has not been too bad, and nor the workload, because since I've retired last summer, I've had more time to do these kind of things. So I'm really appreciative that Ron twisted my arm to do this. 2 years of training and preparation for this responsibility is also a big help. Ron jumped into it with really no preparation. Ed LaFontaine, if I remember right, did the same. So it has been a little bit of a shortcoming of our club to have to do that with our presidents. So we have our president-elect and president-elect designate on board for the next 2 years, and we will continue to try to keep that succession line fleshed out. We don't want to flush them out, we want to flesh them out. But now I appreciate the opportunity to serve as your president. I appreciate the opportunity to lead a great Rotary Club, a club with a good reputation and a great history for doing good. Glad to see Leroy Robertson online because I've asked him to be our historian. And we're going to get the files to him so that he can kind of clean some of them up. But I'd like for him to bring some history nuggets or something to us on occasion, because there are a lot of things in the history of this club that are showing outstanding service to our community and to other parts of the region in the world. So I appreciate Leroy doing that. I appreciate the opportunity to find new ways that we can serve Waynesville, Haywood County, and our region as a service organization. Part of our survey information said that we really need to be emphasizing our service above self motto. And I hope we can do that as we move through the year this year. Also, we have the opportunity to expand our public image of the Waynesville Rotary and Rotary International. And perhaps like the history things, our public image expansion things efforts should begin with our local Waynesville Rotary members. So how do we do this and where do we start? First of all, we do now have a public image committee. Rotary is emphasizing increasing the public image of our clubs and our international organization. And it's more than just a public relations kind of process. And I've asked 3 people to be the nucleus of our public image program: Paula Barton, Rick Smith, and Cecil Young. We want to address as many things as we can to expose the public to our Rotary Club or to Rotary International through print, video, internet, television, anything that can expand the public image of Rotary. And if there are no local stories to publicize, hopefully we can use some of the information from Rotary International to emphasize the work that Rotary is doing in the world. The next area we want to use to work this year is our program area. John Keith has agreed to be our overall program chairman. And I've asked him to have his monthly program coordinators try to tie at least one program in their month to the Rotary International calendar. So I gave him a copy of that calendar to use. And if you notice the topics for this month, it just so happens that this month's program is the new leadership month. So John's all 3 of the programs, possibly following this one, are talking about leadership. And today we just have to listen to your newly elected leader as I try to move us forward as a club in Rotary. Some of the things that came out of our survey process was that we do typically have interesting meetings, and we certainly want to keep those going, interesting and informative meetings. We would like to increase some of the fun that we have in our meetings. Hopefully when we get to October, maybe we can have a Halloween meeting as our last meeting of that month. Something that ties into holidays and things that come along in a given month. We had a suggestion that we not de-emphasize, but maybe limit the number of programs we have in a given month that are related to nonprofits. Expand the programs that deal with current enterprise and activities in Haywood County, whether they be old enterprises or new enterprises, different professionals we have available, and different services that are available in Haywood County to help enlighten us about what we have going on around us and who the leaders in our community are. And if we run out of things, we can always do member bios. That used to be a good fill-in program, and maybe we can schedule some short bios so that we can talk about how we got to where we are, not only in Haywood County, but in our careers and in Rotary. So those are the things we're going to try to work on in the program area. The next big area that we need to work on is our membership. As of July 1 this year, we have 71 members. My goal for next July 1 is that we expand our membership to 78 people, or net increase of 10 people. So if we have 80, 82, 85, that'll be great, but I hope we can at least have 78 at the end of the year. We have a 3-man committee for our membership. It's not 3-man by exclusion of any females, but Mike McLean has been our committee chairman in this area for a while, and I've asked Jeremy Presley and Brandon Wilson to join him as 2 of our younger or youngest members to help look for ways that we can engage more young people, more professionals, more females, and if we can diversify our ethnic background, that will be great too. That's going to be a challenge in the county where we live, but we're up for some challenges. So their responsibilities include diversity and our welcome table, or some other after hours or other kind of opportunity for fellowship and meeting expansion for other people. So I've asked them to focus on recruiting additional professionals, females, and to help reduce the average age of our club, because our average age is at least my age, I think, maybe a little bit older. And since I'll be 71 in a couple of weeks, that's a little bit scary. And we're probably going to set some goals by category to have some targets that we can work on, and ask for some reports and some progress activities as we go along. Also recognize people who sponsor new members. And we need to encourage sponsorship for our for Rotary members by the employers in the area. Most of us who are participating in Rotary got involved in Rotary with the sponsorship of our employer. I know I did when I was in the hospital industry. When I came back and was self-employed, I sponsored myself and took the parts that I could write off as tax deductions and business tax deductions to help reduce the impact of my Rotary membership. Those are all things that people who are self-employed can do. And those of us who are retired need to be maybe a little bit more creative in how we support and sponsor our membership. And then the ability to integrate Zoom and other online methods and activities with our meetings, if we ever go back to having face-to-face meetings, may help us in recruiting members as well, recruiting and retaining. The next area that I'm wanting us to work on is not necessarily we need to work on it, but we need to continue in it and include it, is our fellowship. A lot of people enjoyed their participation in Rotary because of the fellowship. And we need to have our fellowship with a purpose so that we can provide meaningful membership, meaningful engagement for our existing members and people that we try to recruit into our fellowship. We need to be doing more networking. Having networking opportunities without any kind of pressure situation has always been a very good function of Rotary. One suggestion, or more than one suggestion, was that if we go back to having face-to-face meetings with meals, that we change our tables up some, so that we don't all sit at the same table week after week and just talk to the same people. We can get to know one another a lot better if we move around and have the exposure to a new mix of table arrangements. I don't want to go to the point of passing out numbers and assigning tables by number, but I think we can all encourage some diversity in our seating arrangements. I'd like to expand our fellowship into our service projects. If you've ever done United Way Day of Caring with Larry Leatherwood, you have had a chance to do some fellowship in that process. There's some other things that we need to do to try to incorporate our fellowship with things that we do in our service projects. There was a suggestion that we do a monthly or quarterly social outing or activity. We had to postpone our picnic because of our situation. The picnic, the ball game, some of those things have been social outings, but we can do others. We can put together a golf outing once a month, once a quarter, something like that. Or with all the breweries and restaurants we have, we can always have a get together that ties into some of those activities after hours, that kind of thing. So another thing along the continuation of things is our communications. Everybody gives us credit for having a good communication process going because of our thanks to Cecil for all of his efforts in the emails and internet postings and everything else, all of his cartoons and well, occasional funny stories. We restarted the Spoke after our planning session. So he volunteered to pick that up immediately, and please read the weekly Spoke because it'll help you stay up to date because it includes upcoming service opportunities. And once we get the meetings videoed, those will be posted, not in the Spoke, but through Facebook or whatever methodology Cecil is able to bring up. You know what you want to do with that, Cecil?
My guess is I'll find a way to create a Waynesville Rotary YouTube channel and connect there, but I'll also have the link to the meetings. I'll try to add that into the Spoke where you could just click on the link and be taken to the YouTube video.
Very good. I know when Rick Smith was our president, he took it on himself to video a lot of the meetings. I don't know if that was just so he could see himself on camera or whatever his need for it, but those were very much appreciated and people were able to view those online, even if they could not be at our meetings. And the communications things will naturally expand into expanding our public image efforts. What else can we try to do this year? Obviously, we want to continue our service projects. We have a very good mix of service projects and a very good number of service projects. Right now, we need to know which service projects can we do this year. Any of you who are online today or view this later, I'd like you to, and are the chairperson of one of our service areas, Larry Leatherwood and Bill Owen are two that come to mind quite easily because of the connection with the Day of Caring and the upcoming school Man of Backpack programs. We need to find out, can we do those? What can we change in order to try to continue doing those? There was some mention in Cecil Spoke today about sponsoring children for meal support or something if we are not able to do the backpack program. So we need to find out how to do that, where to go, and who is our contact and lead person for that. Like to expand like I said, our fellowship and invite outside participants to participate in our service projects. There are occasions like the bike ride or bike race where we did include outside people, either significant others or other people who had interest in bike racing and that kind of thing to help man all those stations. It'd be great if we can find some other ways to expand and have outside people participate in our service projects. Those of you who are Methodists, remember a few years back where we had an emphasis on every member in ministry. I'd like to see our Rotary Club come up with a program so we have every member in service or every member in engagement. We have some things that are not possible for some of our members to participate in. So can we find some new things that fit into the Rotary focus areas that can be areas of engagement and service that we can offer for all of our members? One thing that comes to mind is literacy. There used to be a literacy program through the library system in Haywood County for adult literacy. We can certainly help find some ways we can volunteer for adult literacy or in the schools, perhaps for supporting some of the children who need some additional exposure to literacy. Also like to make sure that we connect our service projects best we can to the Rotary International 7 causes. Those are highlighted in Cecil's comments and spoke today. They include expanding world peace, reducing disease, and increasing access to water, sanitation, and hygiene, working on saving mothers and children, education and literacy, economic development, local and throughout the world, and the new one is the environmental impact focus. So most of those things we can, I think, easily tie to our existing service projects. I'd like to make sure that we find ways to address those 7 causes. Another effort that we want to continue is our engagement. There was strong support during the survey program that support the idea of the engagement program as opposed to just attendance. We'd like to tie our engagement to our public service and to the Rotary International causes. And Cecil outlined in an email and in the spoke how we can try to do that. I'd like to find new ways that we can do engagement. Like I said, in the service projects, we can do engagement and through service as well as other forms and other activities that are beneficial to our community. Last thing, which is has been a little bit of a surprise to me, is our financial situation. When I joined the board as the president-elect designate, President Ron at the time said that he would like to have us repay some of the money that we owe to our local foundation. As of April 30th, or with an estimate of what the current situation is, our Waynesville Rotary Club owes a little bit over $20,000 to the Waynesville Rotary Foundation. I don't know the history of how this all began, but I suspect it began when we stopped the golf tournament and we did not have the large fundraiser that was bringing in money for us to use for our obligations to Rotary, Polio Plus, and some of those things, and then to all the things that we donate money to throughout the year. We must find a new way to raise some money, and a significant amount of money if we can if at all possible. Things like the bike race brought us a little over $2,000, or right at $2,000. When we did the poor man's dinner, that was a big help, or something of a help, but it's nothing like what we used to get out of our golf tournament. The situation is different now than it was when we started the golf tournament, even when we quit the golf tournament. The other Rotary clubs in the community have had to change their emphasis on their routine fundraisers. I don't think the Haywood Club has been able to do their drawdown that they started many years ago. And I don't know, I know the Sunrise Club has struggled with fundraising this year. We have a 3-man committee that's going to help address fundraising for us this year. Steve Brown, Jack Ewing, and Bronwyn Tally Coffey. Bronwyn volunteered last year to work in that area because that's part of her expertise. And it's also the expertise, if you haven't noticed, of the other 2 members of that committee. And not to say that everybody in the club is more than invited and welcome to pitch in ideas and to help that committee come up with fundraising ideas. Something that particularly if we can expand the participation to all of our club members. If I remember correctly, even when we had the golf tournament, members who did not play in the tournament or recruit sponsors were assessed to help support that effort. And at least we had a financial participation by all of our club members. So they have a big challenge. I wish them well, and hopefully we can get some ideas rolling pretty quickly because nothing is done overnight to come up with a good fundraiser. That leads me to our Rotary Foundation. Through our sustaining membership program, we make a donation of $100 per member per year, which is a very good support of the overall Rotary Foundation. I've asked Wells Greeley and Bob Herman to chair a committee that addresses the Rotary International Foundation and to bring us information from time to time about things that the Rotary Foundation is doing to improve those 7 areas of 7 causes of Rotary International. And they've both agreed and taken on that responsibility. Last area of financial situation, a financial program for our club is Polio Plus and CART. I've lumped Polio Plus and CART together because I don't think they need to be necessarily competing with one another. Unfortunately, this year, we only have made a contribution of this past year of $100 to Polio Plus. This is still the flagship project of Rotary International. In 1979, I think they first began supporting vaccination of children in the Philippines to try to address the expansion of polio throughout the world. Now there are only 2 countries, if my information is correct, that are still afflicted with active polio cases. But polio doesn't just go away once you eradicate it from a nation or from a region. Children still have to be vaccinated every year. So if we want to continue to help the Gates Foundation and Rotary International address Polio Plus, we need to step up again and participate in that effort. Suggested goal for all clubs in our district is $40 per member per year. That would bring our contribution close to $3,000 as we stand right now. If we expand our membership, it would then expand that goal. In the CART situation, we depend on our blue buckets for gathering money for CART, and we've had good support for that because the buckets are on the table every week. We need to find a way that we can make contributions to CART and or Polio Plus now while we're not meeting. Cecil, do you recall how much we donated to Polio Plus last year?
To Polio Plus.
No, I'm sorry, to CART.
It was in this, for the year, I want to say it was in the 600 range, maybe 650, somewhere in there for the year. I think that's correct.
That's good.
I'll tell you exactly in a minute.
CART has donated, I think, almost $2 million to research for Alzheimer's. And CART is not a Rotary International program. It's predominantly in Zone 33 and 34, which is the South Atlantic and the Southeast regions. So $1.2 million out of those two regions is, I think, outstanding. And we certainly need more research into Alzheimer's. So I have two committee people for tackling Polio Plus and CART for this year. And that's Rick Croskery and Sandy Giles. They're both online today. And they both are enthusiastic in helping us find ways that we can support these two great healthcare efforts that are part of our regional and international Rotary efforts. Well, I meant to suggest when we started this this process that y'all get out a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen and make some notes as to how you feel like you could help us step up in these activities that I've outlined. So I'll be happy if you can think of something, either jot it down, send me a note, or comments about how you feel about what I've laid out, so that we can continue to move forward. As a club that used to be 125 strong members, with the activities that we have done in this community and around the world, I want us to move back in that direction. And it's going to take work on all of our parts to do that. So I happily enjoying all of us to step up and find ways that we can continue to make the Waynesville Rotary Club influential in our community, in our region, and in Rotary International. The theme for this year, I have my new banner, and strung up here on the rock fireplace, is Rotary Opens Opportunities. So that's the theme of our Rotary International president this year. And since I can't hang it on the podium, I've put it up here behind me. I challenge all of us to work toward having Rotary be something that is fellowship with a purpose, to advance Rotary, to advance the things that we can do in our community, and to carry on with last year's District Governor Tiffany's theme of do good and have fun. So I want all those things for our Waynesville Rotary Club, and look forward to working with you this year to achieve those. Any comments, response?
Steve, I'll put up here's the CART. I was close, $649.59. That was our donation last year to CART.
Very good. Since we had, what, 4 months when we did not meet, or at least 3.5. That's not a bad contribution. But if we'd met all those months, we could have done $1,000. Dean McMahon has his hand up.
Dean, hold down your space bar to unmute yourself.
Let me ask a question on the foundation where we're paying $100 per member. Currently, of course, that's about $7,100. Is there any kind of international or district regulations that there's a certain amount that has to be given to that? Or is that just something we've decided as a club?
There's a special recognition level of $100 per member per year that we've achieved in a number of years for our support with the Rotary Foundation. So that's really, for that certificate, it's the minimum contribution.
Okay.
There are other categories of giving that people can make donations outside the sustaining member to increase the giving of our club and individuals to the Rotary Foundation.
Well, the reason I mentioned that, I'm certainly not opposed to the Rotary Foundation, and I've given ever since I've been a member and will continue to do so. And I think it's a great organization. So don't anyone misinterpret my statements, but I was just sitting here thinking about how our club has decreased in size and how our fundraising has been basically nil. And we're getting to the point where we're hurting, and, we're sending like 100 to Polio Plus, and we're doing less than 1,000 of these things. And I'm just not sure that I'm for taking care of people around the world, but I'm a little more personally interested in taking care of people in our community as a club. And so I'm just wondering if we nothing says we have to give that $100 entirely. Why don't we think about splitting it and using half of it as a money raiser for local projects? Or, I know we get certificates, and Steve, I certainly don't mean this as against you, or I want you to get your recognition as president. All of us that have served in that role, we know the pressure you get, and we know that you have to do certain things to get certain, we want to continue to be recognized as a worthy club. But I'm more interested right now, rather than getting that certificate, I'm more interested in helping the community. So I just maybe like for us to entertain the idea of maybe redesignating some of that money to go to our local fundraisers, 30. And we're not talking about large sums of money anyway, because we're not raising $15,000, $20,000 like we used to. But in addition to the efforts that Jack and his group, or all that group, will put together for fundraising, maybe we could designate a certain portion of what we give every quarter to local things, or even polio, or even CARP or something, if that's what we think we need to do. Just a thought, guys.
The sustaining membership costs us each $25 a quarter. I don't think that's an extremely high amount to use to support Rotary International. That's over and above that's the Rotary International Foundation. That has nothing to do with our dues for Rotary International membership.
Yeah, I'm aware of how that works.
I'm sorry?
I'm aware that goes to the foundation and how that works.
If we are not able to come up with some significant fundraising activities, we may have to ask club members to support through additional quarterly contributions to help offset some of our activities. The fact that we owe our local foundation $20,000 for our cash flow activity was astounding to me. It's nice that foundation has the amount of cash to help support us. But if we just were trying to assess our current members to get us out of that hole, if we did $50 a quarter, it'd take us 2 years to get out of that hole. And we still don't have any cash flow that's going to support the things that we want to do between now and those 2 years. So we've seriously got to find some new financial fundraising activities, or address the situation we're in with our local foundation.
Steve, I might have not made myself clear. I'm not talking about not doing a fundraiser or just using our contributions we do to the foundation. I'm just talking about redirecting part of those funds to our local emphasis, not necessarily even paying back the foundation, but taking care of local causes that we're having to borrow from the foundation now to do. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about not doing the foundation.
I understand. I I would like to see us expand our contributions to address some of those things as opposed to reducing the $25 a quarter that we're supporting the Rotary International Foundation. That was just my point of view.
Steve,
Thank you.
I might clarify the term. Y'all have used the term sustaining membership, and I'm not sure that everybody understands that that's the Paul Harris Fellows, that $25 per quarter. So if we start, I'm not saying yay or nay about redirecting it, but if you redirect it, then part of it, then you're redirecting away from Paul Harris, which then takes away from people's working toward their fellowship. And again, not passing judgment, just clarifying that $25 is the Paul Harris funds.
Thanks, Cecil.
John Keith's wanting to get in.
You have a space bar, John?
Got it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
I just want to mention, I do appreciate Steve allowing me to be the program chairman, and it is Leadership Month. And in that regard, next week's program is a young lady who happens to be my daughter. It does public health leadership facilitation for strategic planning. And because of the wonders of Zoom, she will be doing the program. So keep these wonderful ideas handy, because we're going to be experimented upon next week and kick off Leadership Month. Along those lines, on programming, and having been in Rotary for 35 years to 37 years, I'm not sure, I think it was 1985, but it may have been 1983. And having been assistant district governor twice and district governor nominee before moving here, 15 years ago, the number one problem in Rotary was getting youth into Rotary. It still is. And the bad news is numbers are not improving. In fact, when Paul Harris was formed his club, the average age was 35. And when I was trained to be district governor, the average age then, and that's 15 years ago, was 65. And we all could talk for an hour and a half, because all of these people I see on my screen are leaders in Rotary and have been for years. There are a lot of reasons, and we won't get into all those today. But there is one thing that I've heard over the time, is that number one, the reason Rotary was formed was networking. There was no service for a couple of years. People that were successful, that became wealthy, then started paying it back, and Rotary is known for its service. But the reason we got young people together when Paul Harris formed the club was one attorney, one banker, one insurance guy, all were giving each other the business, and they grew a business, and the rest is history. One of the pushbacks on getting youth in today is because technology is the way they network. They don't go to meetings and spend an hour and a half as we do, and I enjoy, in fellowship. And we have a little bit of an opportunity right now. It's called Zoom. And what I told Steve was that I would not only do programs, and next month, August, is new member development, I believe, or membership.
Membership and new club development.
And under membership, which is vital to not just our club, this is something I've heard in conversations for 15 plus years at the highest level of Rotary. We have this window of opportunity to join the folks that are networking that are younger than we are with the Zoom, and hopefully either figure out a way we can continue that as a sidebar, even if we go back to meeting, or we get them engaged and we capture them, and that's another story, is how we get them engaged. But right now, what I've done is met with Kim, heads up at the Chamber, the Young Professionals Organization. And it's our young leadership of tomorrow, most of which, if not all, because I don't see anybody that probably meets the criteria in the screenshot of tomorrow. And they are networking as the young leadership in real estate are doing online and various things. But the young professionals in the chamber actually meet. In fact, I think before the pandemic, I may have hosted their last meeting. There may have been one since the one I did, I'm not sure, behind my art gallery. And that's what got me excited about, wait a minute, we've got these young people, they're still out there, they're just not doing what I did when I joined Rotary, because I was the new banker in town, wanted to network Sandy Giles. And so, long story made short, I've met and gotten 30 names. And Larry, I see you on here. I'm going to get you some for Larry's graciously jumped in on August, and I haven't gone out past August on programs. Number one, I want to be able to commit where we're going to meet. What's the club going to look like? But we'll take care of it. But the point is, I'm going to try to bring in young professionals on the premise that we want to help you open an opportunity of networking with some expert leadership like I see on the screen here. We'll see how it goes. It's worth a shot. So I'd throw it out only to mention that's what we're going to try to do in our programming, and Larry's going to help me with that. This month we have Heather's going to kick it off, and we're going to discuss not only things like Dean, you know, we'll see what happens in that. The last speaker of the month is Dr. White, the new president of the college. Gosh, I can remember a day where there'd never be a president of the college or the clubs I've been involved in that wasn't a member of Rotary. And I don't know if she's even been asked. We're fixing to change that. And she's going to be a program on the 31st. So,
Yeah, I see Karen nodding.
She's been
what I'm saying
she's been
is
asked.
right now, the cost is only $71 a quarter. One of the pushbacks have been, as a young person in business, I can't afford, you know, the quarterly fees. You know, it got pretty expensive. And yes, they include lunches, but I don't know that that's the total thing. I think it's a combination of things, and we don't have time to discuss it all today. We'll make that a program next week. But just, I think Dean, is he still on?
Dean
Dean had put a chat in there that we ought to divide up the folks that aren't attending this, because next week's going to be a really golden opportunity for us to hash out things like Dean and all of us have been thinking, and we're the leadership of Rotary, and we're down to 20 of us. We had 23 when this started. And I think it's a real opportunity for us to flesh out some direction and take a shot at it. Because right now, when we can get speakers from New York City to attend, if we wanted to, I don't mean as members, but let's see if we can get some of these young people engaged. So the end of that is it'll work great. And somebody mentioned to me, and I forget who it was last week, that we had a bunch of young people come in. I think they were a bunch of lawyers. And then we never saw them again. So we can get them in here and tell them it's a great networking opportunity. But as you guys know, not only does it have to be networking, but it has to be club service. And so we definitely need the service. We got to be thinking, what can we engage these guys in? Thank you.
Thank you, John. Karen,
Did I
you
make
said
my
that,
point in the chat that Dean had indicated that maybe we ought to get 5 names apiece? It was on a chat, and call these people that aren't zooming in. We have 20 of the 71 members, and maybe we could reach out to them and say, hey, you need to come. It's going to be an important meeting. And if you care about Rotary, now's the time to come talk to us. We're going to brainstorm next week. Good idea, Dean.
I didn't hear that idea, but it sounds like a good one.
That must have been Dean Bunch. It wasn't, I don't think I had that idea. So Dean, you might want to clarify, Dean Bunch, you might want to clarify.
It was Dean Bunch.
Dean, we can't hear you.
See, Dean, if you have a space bar, use it as a microphone key.
I don't have a space bar, but now I've something popped up and asked me to unmute myself. My suggestion simply was that Cecil would circulate a list of everybody who has not been attending these Zoom meetings, and that he divided up 5 apiece, and that each one of us who would volunteer would simply call 5 of the people who had not been attending the meetings sometime between now and next Friday, and invite them to come and ask them if they'd been having any technical difficulties, that we could help them with it. And so hopefully we could build up the membership. So if that's, if any of you would be willing to call 5 people, then perhaps Cecil could make up the list and just circulate it to those of us who would agree to do it, with the name and 5 telephone numbers to call people between now and next Friday.
There are some people who have participated, but just aren't online today. People like Larry Leatherwood and
Right. My suggestion was the people who have consistently not come. In other words, not the people who just don't happen to be here today, but the people who have been consistent non-attenders since we started electronic.
Absolutely. And when Dr. White comes, it would break my heart if we only have 20 people online to hear her speak.
True. Karen, you said Dr. White has been asked about joining?
Yes, she has. I invited her. She actually came to Rotary with me. And then right as she was getting ready to look at joining, then COVID hit and everything shut down. And so here we are today. So, but yes, she has been invited to join Rotary.
Great. We can always do a Zoom induction of a new member, just like we did installation of officers.
I can.
Any other comments or responses?
Steve, just a reminder that if 8 to 10 people could hang around at the conclusion of the meeting, just don't disconnect. I need to test out a feature for next week's program. It won't take more than 5 or 10 minutes at the most.
Very good.
Steve, one thing I would like to mention is that
Paul?
we need to do a better job of retaining members. We don't hold on to the members we get. And do we do any exit interviews or anything like that helps us to know why people don't stay with us?
That's a good suggestion. It's one that's part of the membership effort. I can't say that I certainly haven't had any interviews with people who've stopped participating in Rotary, but it's something that any of us could do if we know of people who have dropped out of Rotary, and get some input, some feedback from them. I think a lot of it will be along the lines of what John Keith has expressed. But we can do things and Dean McMahon proposed that we create a subsidy or scholarship kind of fund for younger members to help support them as new members in Rotary until they really kind of get committed into it. But with our financial situation, what it is, that's going to be a hard thing to do.
And just to avoid misinformation, Mike McLean has reached out to members that were not attending meetings when we were having meetings. I would notify him when somebody had missed 2 or 3 meetings in a row, and he would try to reach out to them and chat with them about what we could do to help them retain them as members. Some people responded, some people didn't.
And it's hard to take attendance at a Zoom meeting for Cecil in particular, because he's also manning the hosting process and keeping us all online. So
did take a screenshot, so I know who was here today.
Well, thank you for your attention. Several of us will stay on for a few minutes and help Cecil practice his project for next week. Anything else for the good of Rotary? See you next week.